letting some people come back in. Welcome back. Last couple weeks have been just crazy busy as normal. I was going to wait till this session. I should have sent something out. I'm currently making a page with all the resource links, the videos, the slide deck, and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully, today, if not early next week, I'll get as much as on the site today and send the link out, and then that'll be kind of evolving over the next couple of days. But I have most of the resources together, so that should be helpful to most. I have met with a decent amount of people over the last 2 weeks, and if you're back, that's great. If you got what you needed out of those meetings, as most of them did, let me know. Anybody that comes to these, I'm offering up. I work for the School of Humanities, but this is just something I'm interested in, and I got some expertise on it, so I thought I'd share that. If you want to email me afterwards, we can set up a short consultation. If it's just such a huge topic and everybody has such individual needs. I was telling Ryan, I think, a lot of this is just enough to make you dangerous, and, you might need some, fine tuning and some other information. So let's go ahead and dive on in. A lot of the stuff at the beginning is, I want to thank Ryan again for helping me out from the Humanities Center. If you have any questions, just plop them into the chat. We are going to do a question and answer thing at the end, so I'm trying to get to the bulk of this early on. There's my email address. That'll be in the follow-up thing as well. Once again, we're talking about, I'm not going to do this deep dive again, but off-campus tools. I just want to say, do my due diligence so I can keep my job, that we do have some great tools at UCI, and but they might not fit your needs, and in that case, you have the privilege and the right to use off-campus tools as well. It's kind of like if you're in humanities, check with me. If you're outside, check with your local computing support team to see what resources are available to you. There's policies and procedures about any website that you would make for UCI, and kind of not what we're talking about today. These are more like personal websites, research stuff, but some of those have some elements maybe of policies. So today, real quickly, this was up last week, but we're going to talk about design mostly today, layouts and content. Not as much about images as I wanted to. That didn't feel like we had the time on that. A couple common mistakes, and then we are going to try to, if we have some time, just get some hands-on time on creating a website. Just so it's not as scary as you think. So, Steve Jobs was famously quoted, design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design it how it works. So, when we talk about, design, it's it used to be such a bigger deal back in the day when we were creating these from scratch. Nowadays, most of the stuff, the websites that I'm going to be talking about later on, all have templates and tools. It's really, and some of those are better designed than others. So, kind of some goals on picking the right templates for your website. If you're going to go at this and just, use an editor like Dreamweaver or something like that to create your own website, this is all even more important. And if you are, doing a deeper learning HTML, Dreamweaver kind of stuff, definitely talk to me first. I have some insights on some really great tools. I'm excited to say that UCI now offers the Adobe Suite to faculty and students. Thank you, UCI. I used to have to pay for that ourselves in humanities, so I'm pretty excited to get that moved over. So these are some really general. I broke these down. Like I told you last week, I used to do website consultant work, and I used to get a lot. I used to do websites, and I used to consult when people, they wanted to start their own website business. And some really brilliant people that, that it's website design is a whole different thing, like you're talking about screen size. Um, I would say, video and print media is, in my mind, it's easier in a lot of ways because these are all like fixed size stuff. You're designing for a, piece of paper, if you will, or you're designing, for a screen. There's not a lot of choices there. But websites, you're basically having your content and layout over a vast array of different tools to look at your media. We'll be talking about that a little bit later. But real quick on some goals that we kind of came up with these consulting companies, like, quickly guide the visitor to an intended result. So there's a rule of three. Most websites really should only take 3 clicks into the website to get to any content. That's how most websites are organized. You will find much larger websites that you just can't get away from that in, and then we design in clusters then. So like, humanities, for example, our website, like we don't consider you going to the humanities website and then going to undergrad and then, going to a resource there and then using the resource there as 3 clicks. It's basically humanities site is hosting a whole bunch of different sites and then 3 clicks after that, if you will. So, and we'll get into a little bit more on that when we talk about content. Goal 2 is communicate your brand and personality and trustworthiness. Sounds really corporate for UCI, but it still kind of worked. Basically, how are you selling yourself? I will say, I think I told this story last week. My ex, I don't know if I said ex-wife or friend, but my ex-wife went to UCI. She used to bring tours to UCI. I was talking to one of the kids and he basically said he wouldn't come to UCI because he didn't like the website. So, that's a big deal, and communicating who you are is a big deal, and a well done, easy to navigate website can communicate and sell yourself very well. A poorly one will really go the other way pretty quickly. So, so a lot of these, what we're talking about today, design is to be able to sell yourself appropriately. And then, welcome your target audience. Most importantly, make it website design. When you're designing a website, it should be for your target audience. And that's the only people you have to design for. If you try to design for everybody, usually what I found, it just doesn't come across the way you'd want it to. You need to, you're selling it to a certain person, like if you're a grad student and, you're not, and you're looking for a job in academia, you're selling yourself to academia. You're not selling yourself to the corporate words. The language that you choose and the colors that you choose and the way you do this is going to be different than you would do to a corporate audience, for example. And vice versa if you're going to the corporate world. So a couple of principles, we're going to deep dive into some of these, but like some of these, I always think that they're kind of obvious, but like being consistent is a big deal on a website. The fonts you use matters. Your page flow and how you organize them. You don't want your users to have to be scratching their heads on, it's not a game, it's, unless that's what you're designing it to be, it should be fairly obvious that you're going here to find out how to contact me. There shouldn't, there's some design word principles. Don't get too cute and too clever. I've done most of my websites I've done for very artistic people where they want these really just something different on the website, so it's just like one of them was just a blue website, and then you had to scroll over every inch of the screen to find all the links. And it was kind of cool, but it acted like a game, where I could see that, we literally had the conversation. There'll be people that go to the site and think that it hasn't loaded and go away. So, try not to be too clever with this kind of stuff, especially, when you're trying to sell your stuff. And then we'll be talking a lot about designing for different devices. Good, this is kind of a rehash, but, kind of like make sure that you have a, clear purpose. I do, back when I consulted a lot, and even now when I work with a department or centers, when I used to consult more with our departments, we would talk, the website design stuff's usually last. We'll talk about content later on, but the content dictates your design. If you have, if you want to develop a website like for yourself, for example, and you're a grad student, you might have like an about me page, you might have a research page, you might even have like a, personal spot to get to know me. You're probably not going to have like, 20 different huge content areas on your site. And that dictates how your site's going to look. So if you have 10 to 20 large topic ideas on the top, you're going to have to come up with a more clever menu scheme than you would with a simple site. And those are all going to make differences on how you design your site. These are, like I talk about mistakes, these are the mistakes people use that they make at the beginning. They don't figure out their content first. They just go and like, I want the website to look like this. Make it look like that. And, and then it's like, well, you're a biologist, you have large, worded research terms, your topics are huge, having a bar at the top with these long titles just aren't going to work. How are we going to break that up in your design? How are we going to make that look good for you? So, okay. People tend to want to, you are all, I'm assuming you have all been to a website before. So, this is all stuff, kind of think about stuff that you like when you go to websites, communicate clearly, it's easy to read and digest. You can get into the deep dives where, if you're wanting to put up, part or all of your dissertation, that's fine. But, the links before that, are, should be short and concise and easy to read. You're going to lose people. So, so yeah, so look at that. Typefaces, we're going to get a little bit more into this too, but, keeping it simple. We're going to get into this more, but, something a little more simple, easy to read. Fonts, don't get too custom with fonts. There aren't that many fonts to use anyways. Like usually like a Arial and it's easy to read. Something like Times New Roman or something like that, a little harder to read on your eyes. So, we usually stay away from those on the websites. We'll get to those a little bit. Colors. This is just such a, like, I talk about, I have fights with people on colors all the time. Colors are like the, like seem to be the hot topic of website design. Just a quick ad on, some design fails that we did. I worked with a faculty that did this really cool, like Japanese ghost website. And, so we're like, black background, white text, it was, it was cool, cool looking website, but it was for undergrad students. So I also worked in I managed a student lab. So I had a student come up to me and they printed out the entire website, which was like 40 pages. And it was all, there was just blank pages. And I'm like, wait, what? Well, because all the text was white. So it literally printed white text on the white paper. So then we had to go back and we made it a completely printable PDF file in a whole completely different website, so they could go into another mode and print that out if they wanted to. It was embarrassing, but luckily I was in both sides of those worlds to see the problem, so we're able to fix it. And I did let the student print again for free, if you're wondering. So they were very upset about that. Yeah, so and then like white space and negative space, not as important, I would say, as designing for, like, say, for print design. Sometimes we like to give a little more space around objects. It gives the eyes a little bit of a rest, as opposed to, like, if you have a printed flyer, you're usually trying to get a lot of content on one page, and that's fine. Like the colors should be, if it's a lot of text and reading, huge contrast is a big deal. There's a reason that paper is white and print text is black. Like, most books are done that way because that's easy to read. That's the most contrast you could possibly have. One of the first e-readers that came out was a dark green background with a slightly darker green text. It was kind of hard on the eyes to read. They got lighter and lighter, and they got better and better, and more contrast as those devices went on. But just contrast is important. If you remember that you're gold. So images, I like have my copyright hat on every once in a while. Just make sure that that you do have legal permission to use the images you're using. And if you think if you put a cartoon on your website, by the way, you'll probably get caught. I get at least once a month copyright thing from a faculty that, on their website, will put, a cute cartoon up there. On our websites, they're locked down, but like on a public facing website, and you'll probably get in trouble. If you're old enough to remember Dilbert, they had more lawyers than cartoonists, I think. So they were pretty big on that. So, but the right website images and stuff like that, can be important, but use them, appropriately. I personally, my background's, more like photography, images stuff, all that stuff's important to me. And I don't have a lot to say about that, except for I did want to throw in some logo advice too. Nope, it's going to be harsh, but nobody really cares about your logo except for you. So, people spend days, weeks, and months designing these, wonderful, beautiful logos. And then I always try to make them as small as I possibly can in the top left corner and just get it out of the way of the website. It shouldn't be a commanding element on your website. I'm sure your logo is, the best thing that you've ever made, but, it's not as important to people visiting the site as you might think. As you can imagine, I mean, if you go around to different websites and you see their logos, that's probably not exactly what you're talking about or remembering. It's the content. So navigation, we kind of talked about this before, but it's kind of a rehash of that, just a reminder. But the 3-click rule, and then I just wanted to bring it up again. When you're designing the site, I usually use a different type, like an org chart type tool. I'll be putting a free one on the resource page, and those are great for all the pre-work that you're going to do. That is way more important than your actual layout of the site. It's, like I said, it's all about the content, and the website's just a way to deliver that content out. So, this is another thing for designing your website. I just thought this was the coolest little, like a hot image of how people see websites is something I've been trying to explain for years. And I actually found like a um, uh, uh, a graph that kind of showed it appropriately. It's like, people have natural behavior on how they look at things. Most people will look at a website more like they look at a magazine rather than like a book. They don't go straight through it. But with that, the top left corner of the website is kind of the bread and butter of the website. If you have, that's usually where we like to sell like our events or upcoming news or, stuff that changes a lot. And then moving over down there can be like, like about us or something like that. Unless about us is the most important thing. But the more important things top left. And as you go down, you can see by this, people, those the red areas on this image are where people have clicked the most, and the other areas are, what they barely see. Probably, hopefully, self-explanatory, but just to let you know that there are, better real estate spots on your website, and you need to think about that when you're designing it. And we'll get into statistics and tracking here at the end too. So the reason I stopped doing websites is we're doing them by hand, like coding was a little thing you'll hear is responsive websites. The world got a lot harder when people started going to mobile devices, tablets, and all these other things. And we'll talk about that a little more in the future. But, just to put your radar on, you need to make your websites mobile friendly. So responsive designs, and all the, and this is the cool things about, like the WordPress and Weebly's and Wix's and all these things, this is what they do. This is why, we push people onto these things and we're not hand coding stuff anymore, because we can easily see how these things will look. Responsive web design is built into those kind of sites. And if you have questions on that, we can talk about at the end. I'm just kind of a little lower. Another little quote, content dictates form, less is more, and clarity. Working for humanities, this was a hard, this is something that, I used to do when, with my designers' websites. They wanted to have literally, 3 or 4 pages of information about them and their history. And all that was great. But, what we were finding was that people just weren't going to those pages. They weren't staying on there. So a little short, like history, little short descriptions higher up on the front pages, if that was important to them, help people actually get a little bit of information. And then, that's kind of like for people that
Uh-oh, Dwayne, looks like you've frozen.
I freeze.
Yep, a little bit. I wonder if maybe pulling your slides down and then putting them back up might help. Okay, well, I'll wait for Dwayne to sort of regain his connection here. I know that we've got a few questions coming through. Okay. One of which is, does Dwayne have a website that he recommends for, identifying complementary colors? Dwayne, is your,
Yep,
you're able to hear us okay? Yeah, you're okay. Did you want to pause for a few questions, or do you want to?
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I have a colors website. I have a whole layers, I'm sorry, like design website. I have about 10 resources that are deep dives into everything that I'm talking about. So like, so I have uh, definite like palettes of colors conversations. There's all these tools where like you have a primary color where you're like, oh, I really love, I really love this red. And it's like, oh, what would be a nice complement to the red colors, to help you pick out the colors. All those resources will be on that website that I'm putting up later today, probably this weekend. So.
Okay. Is there a site that you might recommend that folks can go to that maybe lays out, like color wheels and
Yes.
that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I just don't remember it off the top of my
Okay.
head.
Okay. No
I don't
problem.
want to like look
Yeah.
for it. It's in that resource list that I have that I'll send out. So
Okay.
but
Ooh, Tiffany recommends Adobe Color is good to play around with. Yeah, that's a good point. I've
yeah,
seen that too. Another question is breadcrumbs.
yeah.
I know, Dr. Shemek, you had a good response to that too. Could you sort of define what that means for us?
Yeah, breadcrumbs are great. They're great for deeper websites too that do that click thing. But basically, what a website breadcrumb is a way to find yourself back to where you came from. So it might say like home, and then like let's use the example at home, undergrad, about us. So you're like, oh, and then you're like maybe on a bio of Brittany. So then like, well, I really, this is not where I wanted to be. I want to go back to undergrad. I don't want to have to click the back button 3 times. Oh, there's the breadcrumbs are kind of listed out where I am on the site. I'm just going to click back on that undergrad page and get back to that original thing. Those are what breadcrumbs are. A lot of those are built in, or you can add them into um, the different website tools. And usually they're easy to add in. So, yeah.
Okay. I think for now, those are the questions that we've got. So maybe we can sort of pick up where you were leaving off there.
Okay. I'm going to, because I just didn't have, like, I was running out of time on, I did an image resource thing that I'm going to send out, like where to find images and how to get them. There's just this whole world, and plus it's like a Mac PC thing. So it just got into a deep dive. Google search, images, kind of thing is usually what most people do, but like copyright images, I have links for the UCI resources and all these other kind of things. I'll send those out. I just don't want to go into that. We kind of already talked about these, but just to rehash, like colors, size, content. I'd say, what most people's mistakes with their websites are, they put them up and then they forget about them. You really need to put a reminder on your calendar, once a week, once a month, unless it's a very stagnant website, just to make sure that you're going in there and making sure all your content is updated. There's and then what we found is, like, I talk to faculty about this all the time, like, like reusable websites, like, week 1 is better than the date. That makes it, more reasonable. You don't have to go through, the students know what date it is, those kind of things where you're not locking yourself down to, if you're have an upcoming event, like one of the mistakes that, we've made on humanities sites is like, like, well, next week, and it's like, well, when someone's visiting the site in a month and it says next week, they think that it's next week. So, in that case, the opposite, like put the date in there. Just kind of like, don't make, date kind of mistakes. I will send out the colors, size, and content resources on there. And then we already did this a little bit last week, the overview of campus services. we're going to go onto sites in a minute and show that. Once again, check with your local department. So off-campus tools, I did do quite a bit of research the last couple of weeks on, actually, this is one of the resource tools that I was on. I found this really, hold on, got it all queued up and everything. Is it showing the website?
No. Are you selecting your desktop or are you selecting the, oh, there we go. Never mind.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
This was like one of those, like I couldn't have said it best. This will be included in the list. And this was the only one I could find that did a really nice, even, like the 4 top ones that we kind of talked about 2 weeks ago. Weebly, Wix, Squarespace, and WordPress. And it was current and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to send this out. I'm not going to go through this because you guys can read it. You all have different needs. What kind of, in, summary, let's go to the bottom, summary. Keeping in mind that the main the main company that you link onto afterwards is they'll help you with your WordPress site. So it's a little tainted that way, but it shows all the prices and the comparisons and all that kind of stuff. I agree with them for, basically to conclusion, Wix and WordPress seem to be, from everybody I talked to, definitely the most popular. Weebly was a pretty close second. I thought Squarespace was a little more popular than like my website buddies that, they just had, when they recommended Squarespace, there was the one that, people actually had the most problem with. So I thought that was fair, but I've used Squarespace. I actually thought it's a fair runner up. And I will say the one thing that I like for WordPress is that you all can do a low commitment WordPress site right now, and you can export that to what they call self-hosted. You can go anywhere you would like with that site afterwards. So as opposed to like a Wix and Weebly and Squarespace, where you're kind of, you're just kind of stuck in there forever, kind of thing, where it's like you design there once. They're all basically the same, as like they all have going up here. They don't show a Squarespace one, but they all have like a drag and drop kind of. They all have themes, but they all have this kind of like drag and drop kind of like, oh, I want to put a title. Weebly, I did a test site on Weebly. It seemed like super easy to use, and same as Wix. You just, like, oh, I want an image, I drop it on there. I want to embed some code, which you sometimes need to do to, some advanced code to do, some kind of site tracking or something like that. That might be necessary. A YouTube link or something like that. We've had to embed code in, a bunch of different reasons to do high code. They seem to all do that, which I was nervous that they wouldn't. But the free sites are definitely, the problem I had with most of the free sites are, they did have advertising on them, and or, kind of a lower feature set than like our WordPress did. So I'm going to, let's see, do just a quick sites demo. And then we're going to do questions, and then we'll finish up. So unless Brian, when I'm getting over there's any questions that
No, not so far. I think we can
Okay.
I'm sure more will come up as
So
we look
this
at the
is
site.
just sites.uci.edu, which has a really great help center. I can help you out with it if you need help. You know, it's a campus well designed. This is like literally, I did this like 5 minutes before the class. I wanted to set some up just in case there was some kind of problem, but you just click the create website, you know, and it's like, oh, these are the benefits and the limitations. The limitations are, you know, like, I'd say the biggest limitation for a lot of our researchers are the UCNet ID if you're collaborating with people across universities. But also, once again, you can use an off-campus WordPress, and I'll be sending some of those too. GoDaddy works for getting a URL and stuff like that, but I'll sending some recommendations on that. And anyways, you can read that. So I went ahead and yes, I created the site, but when you're logged in to my sites, logging in, by the way, is at the bottom of that sites page. It says log out for me right now. All of your sites that you've created are up here at the top corner. So
Really quick, I'm sorry, Dwayne, are you showing us your
yeah,
sites page?
Can you not see it?
We're still looking at the Weebly.
Okay, thank you for letting me know that. I just thought I did desktop, so it didn't follow my. Thank you. So real quickly, there's just a single button. You basically choose a website or blog and you name it, and it takes 30 seconds to create the website. And then you can create, you know, dozens. These are some websites that I've had in the past. Most of these are dead websites now, but we kind of have them for archive purposes. This is the one I created 5 minutes before the workshop began. So I'm just going to click on the dashboard. This kind of gives you, you know, keeping in mind, you know, not a lot of visitor stats for, you know, for the last hour, but because it doesn't exist yet. So down here, it like some of the cool things, you know, it gives you, I guess I could go to one of the other sites, but you know, it gives you statistics on, you know, when people are coming and how long they're staying and what sites that they go to and what countries they're coming from, you know, like a definitely, you know, all the sites have decent amounts of statistics. I really liked I thought WordPress had that built in, you know, nicely and easy to get to. It used to be, I should say, like everything on here, WordPress was designed to be a blog service at first, and it's kind of grown to be great for websites. So a lot of stuff talks about like, you know, posts and stuff like that. We're going to ignore that kind of stuff today because this was designed as a website, not a blog. But media, you can have your a library of images that are loaded up. You can, this shows you all the links on the websites and link categories. This is, for me, this is a great tool of making sure that all your links are updated and working. So you can kind of go in there like, wow, you know, that link doesn't work anymore or anything like that. And that's the bread and butter here is pages. So we can go to pages here. Like I said, I just put in one page to kind of play around because they did change the WordPress enterprise WordPress a little bit, so it was a little bit different for me. I just want to make sure I didn't embarrass myself completely on here. But if you want to add a new page, all you have to do is, you know, add new page, you know, page title, do something really clever like page 2, and up here you can you can preview the page, publish the page, save it as a draft because you're just working on it. You don't want it obviously posted up right now. And you have all these different tools on how you want this published. We'll get into templates in a second. I just want to show you how easy this all is to use. You can basically, if you wanted to, you know, add a table to your site. you can easily add a table. You just do the little plus in here. I want to add an image gallery, a link to a file. I want to add a video. Like I wanted to add, these are all the website widgets that are included in here. The social icons like Facebook, Instagram helped you create those posts. Those links to your site. And then, buttons, all this stuff is just drag and drop. It makes it easy. And then down below, we have like tons, and this is the new stuff that they added, tons and tons of, what they think is going to be helpful for you. Hopefully, you have a cool TED Talk to link to, and some different resources in here. But all this stuff is, all you got to do is like I want to add an image. I can go to my image library, select the image, and it's really hard to get to because you guys are all, oh, there we go. And then I can do, there's a bunch of different settings on here. I can change the size, all the stuff I think is pretty self-explanatory in here. It's not, I think it's very easy to use. I just went ahead and published the page so I could get out of there. And then, I can look at that. So all this stuff is fairly easy. There's tutorials for all this stuff. I don't want to deep dive into this because you might not choose WordPress. So I just want to show you that it's easy. All of them are about the same. So on WordPress, you click on them. Some of them you drag them. They're all slightly different, but they're all very easy to use. Usually the number one thing I get asked about are the themes. So, so right now, the top left one is the theme that I selected. The basic UCI one's not that great. But as you can hopefully see on here, there are some really beautiful, fantastic choices on here. I will get a question or two right now or afterwards. Can you customize these themes? Yes and no. To a certain extent, you can customize them, but I would say try to find a theme that's as close as possible to what you want it to be. And so you don't have to spend a lot of time modifying. Can you create your own themes? Yeah. Is it easy? No. It's not that easy to create your own WordPress themes. There are companies that do that though. And you can, it's just taking this all to another level. Most of the time when I'm talking to someone about, doing like, whole WordPress, theme template, sometimes it's easier just to get into Dreamweaver and just design your own website. So all these themes, to get to any of them, all you have to do is just, why I'm having a hard time finding what I like. But you just click on it and activate it. And then, it just shows up automatically like I did with this one. And then you can, customize the theme to how you want it. Like right now, I don't have a header image on mine. So I can add new header image. I did want to show that like it so nicely. It has a crop tool built into here. You don't have to pre-crop your image. The image does have to be in a certain kind of format. If this was a portrait instead of landscape image, it probably wouldn't have worked as well. And then I'm going to quickly crop that. And I'm going to always remember to click that publish button, and then that'll be I have a new header image on the top of my page. So so as far as the widgets go, this is one of the you can add different widgets to this theme. Everything that I'm doing right now is based on the theme that I'm using. the menus across the top. I had it automatically. I did change this. I automatically add new top level pages. So, so page 1 and page 2 are pages that I created. I could, of course, delete these. And a lot of things you can do with your menus. You can add different menus. You can have side menus, left or right, top. There is a decent amount of customization. The reason I bring that up is because the biggest complaint I get about they're like, well, I don't want to use WordPress or, Weebly or Wix or any of those things because it's stifling my creativity. There's, I don't want to have to use these themes. I get it. But unless you're looking for a new hobby, you can probably find a theme in there that's probably going to work for you. It just probably saves you a lot of time and money that way. But I don't want to discourage you from making your own website, but I do have faculty that literally their biggest complaint, 5-10 years later, is that, it's just a lot of work, to maintain those full homegrown, you did it yourself website. That's why these are so nicely done. And then, anyways, enough on the menus, I guess. The plugins, I did want to bring up the plugins since this is the new cool thing that we're getting at UCI from, I haven't played with any of these yet, by the way. But you can do, I hear Pixabay images are a nice image resource, but a whole bunch of different things that, are definitely, not for everybody, but if you find something in there that you would like to use, do that. And then users is the next biggest questions I get. You can add users to your website as long as they're UCI users. You can get a sponsored ID for someone outside of the university, but it might, if you're doing a lot of collaboration work, it might be nice to get like a WordPress or a different type of site outside of the university. And then I'm going to stop there. There's all these different settings. Google Analytics, by the way, is built in as well to there as if you're into the statistics and all that kind of stuff on who's coming to your site. And then Ryan, are there questions?
Yes. Okay. So let's pause for those. First, Stephanie Narrow, you put a very good remark in there about color wheels and complementary colors for colorblind folks. So I encourage everyone to check that out in the chat. So,
oh, good. Yeah.
Great link there. But she also has a question about wanting to learn code for website design. Is there a sort of like an easy place to go to get a good start without being overwhelmed?
I will. Yes, there are so that, yeah, there's so many resources. I'll do a couple of my favorites. I'll do a whole new little advanced tab I'll call it advanced tab at the bottom. So, so if you're more like, you want to do this homegrown, like, Dreamweaver or another type tool, I'll add resource to that. I used to teach the Dreamweaver workshop on campus years ago. Before we had stuff like sites and all that kind of stuff, everybody had to go that route. Look at the advanced stuff, but like I offered before, don't hesitate to reach out for me. I will meet with any or all of you for like a half an hour. We'll talk about your project, your needs. And, I think, rather than you spending like an hour doing research, I think it'll just be nice to, to have like this is what I used to do, so like, just, come talk to me and we'll get that figured out. But I will like to have that nice resource tool on there for you all to link to. So yeah, I'll get you that.
Great. Next is, do you have any recommendations on setting up the menu structure of a site at the top left? Are there any do's or do nots?
Yeah. So I personally, I love the the left-hand menus. Those are like my kind of go-to. So usually the rule of thumb is the top menu. Like this is how most sites are designed. There'll be a top bar menu for the main items on the page. And then when you click on there, you go to a sub page, and then it has a left menu is usually, and then it gives you kind of the contents of that area. For like, so for example, like I'll go to that undergrad. I don't know why I'm on undergrad today, but undergrad page, you know, and it goes down, and then it might have like an about us. And then on the left-hand menu, it has, you know, like, you know, counselors, you know, faculty, admin, and all this kind of stuff on the left-hand side. The reason I like the left-hand side more is that, you know, you can make the text a little smaller. You can add a little more, text. I think it's an easy flow. And we were talking about that where your eyes go thing earlier. The eyes go to the left-hand side of that screen. So that's where people, I think, naturally navigate to. You know, and then after that, there's link tips you can do where you like hover over something where it might say like, I don't know if you can still see that. Well, it doesn't actually have any of these in here, but okay, but it'll tell you what's going to happen. Like over here, it says edit and view, but it could say like more longer description, you know, especially if you're in the sciences and you have these ridiculously long names for, you know, everything, you know, like, you know, you hover over, you know, genetics, and it gives you like the full description of what you're going to get when you click on that. So.
Okay. Another quick question about putting images into your sites in you know, sites, for example, the media library. Can we look really quick at how that works?
Oh yeah, so like on this one, so like so you can do like a you know, like as far as like, you know, since we're on this one, you can just drag and drop files on here. I will say, you know, in all fairness, it's kind of nice to kind of clean them up, touch them up before you get here. I'll in that images part that I was going to add that I just kind of just did one slide with no information on it. There will be more information about images. You know, like probably it might not be obvious, but image size matters. If you're on a, you know, you're on a cell phone, cellular connection, you know, you don't want a 50 megabyte image of your headshot. You know, they're waiting, you know, 5 minutes for this to download, and it's just, you know, your headshot. You know, they might be disappointed if they're looking at my headshot. You know, but you know, like you know, so you know, just be wary. Like there's size is important. You know, and when I'm talking about like not dimension size, that's important as well, but physical size of the file is important. And there's a lot of great applications that are free to do that. And then we also free and easy to use. And there's even some websites now that you can upload your pictures, do some quick editing and all that kind of stuff. I'll be honest with you, like your phones are great resources for everything that you want to do on your images. There's some great tools on there. One of my favorite thing that's going to be on there is called Spark. It's Adobe Spark that you all have a license for at UCI. And it's designed for doing images up to social media. So it allows you to put, you know, text, you know, and kind of clean up the images a little bit. You can add a filter on there, you know, crop the good size. It'll keeps it, you know, at a small size, and then sharing that up to somewhere where you can, you know, add it to your media library here. I hope that helps. Is that
great? Well, yes. And then just to emphasize that, you know, if we want to use images on our site, we have to first load them into the media library before
yes.
we can drop them into where we need them to go.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then which website builder would you recommend for design or project portfolios?
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I do, not off the top of my head, there was a couple that I used a couple years ago that were just brilliant. Let me make sure that those are still around, and I will add those. I'm trying to like not type is up. But let me add that to the list of things. I actually didn't think about that for this workshop, but that's a great add to this. There's one that's really easy to use and it's beautiful. And I have a graphic design friend that used it like 3 years ago and they were super happy with it for their portfolio. But you can put any kind of content in there. So yeah, let me dig that up again. So.
Okay. Well, I was wondering this too. What exactly is a widget?
Oh yeah. So it's basically, it can be, it's basically a tool that's added in to the website that could be a third party. It's usually like a standalone program that's embedded inside and it has a feature. So like, for example, you could have like they have a forms widget that, that you can add to this that will build a form for you inside of WordPress. So like we're doing a new website and we're hiring, so we can hire a programmer to design one specific tool in our website. And we basically literally, plug it in, plugins, that's where it comes in. We usually plug it into the site. And that can run, completely separately from the rest of the website. So basically it just does a special action that, like you could have a Tetris widget on here. So it would play, that's probably the best example. So it's like a game inside of your website, but you just added that in or deleted it. You can delete it or remove it at any time. It's actually kind of a self-running tool. So.
Okay. And I see that we've got just about a minute left. Let's see really quick. Molly Herman, I see that you put in a link to some accessibility recommendations on the UC site.
Yeah, and I did have that on my notes. I didn't bring it up here, and I should have, because that's something that's like that's so super important. There is an accessibility add-in to WordPress and a couple of the other ones, but accessibility design is a huge topic that I completely glossed over, and I will add that to that resource list. And I do apologize for that. That's actually a pretty big deal that that I just completely forgot about. We talk about it weekly when we're doing our websites for humanities. So why I didn't include that, I apologize for. Yeah, thank you for the reminder.
Well, and I've also dropped in the School of Humanities communications website has also its own dedicated page for accessibility, how to work out your text in a way that is accessible and the use of images. So I've dropped that into the chat as well. And so Dwayne, we've now hit 1 o'clock. I'm thinking what I'll do is I will again take all of the questions from today and drop those into a document. So, you have those to look at, as you're sort of thinking through what resources to put up later.
Real quick to Dwayne? Thank you so much, Dwayne, for making this experience of learning how to build websites and all this so comfortable. I never thought that building a website would be something I would think about. So thank you so much for being clear and concise.
Good.
And everything.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Good. I think Ryan has another.
Well, no, I think with that.
Oh, okay. I thought we had another one to last week. I know we had one at 1 o'clock. So yeah. So anyways, thank you all so much. Like I said, don't hesitate to reach out. I'd hate for you to spend 5 hours looking into something that, a 30-minute consultant call might be able to save you a lot of time. And I look forward to talking to you all. I'll send, it'll be a work in progress, but I'll send as much as information as I can send out today. And then, maybe I'll let everybody know when, I consider it mostly done next week. So, and I'll keep you posted on that. So.
Okay, great. Dwayne, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for all your help. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk to y'all later. All right, bye, everyone.